Trudeau's Trade War Part 2. Sunset Clause Nightmare. Okay, so going back a few days, I'm sure everybody's heard that trade wars and this and that, and nothing good came out of the G7 for Justin Trudeau. And yeah, man, that's terrible. I am very concerned about this. And as I said in my last video, I laid the blame for this at Trudeau's feet. And here's why. It matters how you negotiate this. You do not negotiate with Donald Trump in public. In public, you maintain your decorum. Trump does. Anyway, I'm jumping ahead. So here's the explanation of what happened. I'm going to kind of explain it because I think it's complicated, and the press is just going to try and rally people behind Trudeau. This is Trudeau's fault. Okay, here we go.
Well, let me take you back, first of all, to 5 p.m. on Friday in Charlevoix, okay? There's a bilateral meeting at the end of the first day of the G7 summit between President Trump and Prime Minister Trudeau, and it's going so well. People are very excited. The Prime Minister's key advisors are there. Larry Kudlow is there. They're talking trade. Steve Mnuchin has been working the phones. He's not there, working the phones with Finance Minister Bill Morneau. How well is it going? Trump has been asking for a sunset clause. At one point, he waved away the notion of a sunset clause, surprising his own chief negotiator, according to people who were there. And people think it's great. Next.
Okay, so negotiations in the G7 are going so well that Trump says, we don't need that 5-year clause. Okay, so in Trump's mind, things are going well. Things are very, very, very good. Now here, I'm starting a little bit before the sunset question, but I want Trump's point to be heard because it's a really important one. So this is a little bit a longer clip of Trump, but it's buttressed because it's on topic and it's very important. So this is, well, I'll let the man speak.
Bad thing for Canada, and it would be a very bad thing for Mexico. For the United States, frankly, it would be a good thing. But I'm not looking to do that. I'm not looking to play that game. So we're either going to have NAFTA in a better negotiated form, or we're going to have 2 deals.
Does it have to have a sunset clause in it?
It'll have a sunset. You have the 2 sunsets. I mean, you have a ISDS provision and a sunset provision. They've been very heavily negotiated. You have 2 sunsets, 2 concepts of sunset. We're pretty close on the sunset division. Okay.
Like 5 years, or?
Well, we have one that's 5 years. You know it very well. You've studied this very well. Congratulations. That's right. You have one group that likes to have 5 years and then a renegotiation at the end of 5 years. And you have another group that wants longer because of the investments. So, but we're pretty close. Yes, sir.
Okay, so Trump clearly still thinks there's a sunset clause, but he thinks they're close to a deal and whatever. So there's obviously been some kind of miscommunication, but something's off, right? But if you've had a really good conversation with Trump one-to-one and your team is celebrating and you're celebrating and everybody's popping the champagne, so this conference happened. Trudeau saw this. He knows this stuff. And what Trump was saying at the beginning, he said, if NAFTA is not signed, it's a bad thing for Mexico and a bad thing for Canada. And a really not that terrible thing for the United States. He said, but I'm not looking to play those games. He's being genuine. He's being straight up here. He doesn't want to play games. He's not starting this crap. So Trudeau's seen this. He knows that it's within his best interest. He knows that they had a really good showing. And if you watch my other video, Trump talks specifically about relationships, saying the relationships are great. Everything's great. So this is just unbelievable. Okay, so this is Trudeau. Right after Trump's presser, or at the end of the G7. So this is definitely after Trump's presser. And this is the question on NAFTA and sunset clauses. Here we go.
NAFTA. The president spoke this morning at his press conference. He said he thinks you're close to a deal, but that a sunset clause is inevitable. There are 2 possibilities, he said, for a sunset clause, but there will be one. Do you agree that there will be a sunset clause? Will you consent to that? And do you think you're close?
There will not be a sunset clause. Canada has been unequivocal that we cannot sign a trade deal that expires automatically every 5 years. That is not a trade deal. So that's not on the table. I think there are various discussions about alternatives that would not be that and that would not be entirely destabilizing for a trade deal. And I think we're open to creativity, but there will be no sunset clause.
If there won't.
Okay.
And then he repeats the answer in French. But okay, so, and I said this in my video yesterday, that's combative, especially when you're talking about a trade deal. Especially when you're talking about a trade deal that's not signed. Holy God, when you're talking about a trade deal that's not signed. So for Trudeau to come out and stick his foot in his mouth, and this isn't the only time that he speaks strongly, let's say, to Trump in the news conference, and there are other clips about it around. But this is not how you negotiate with President Trump. This is not how you deal with this. This is amateur hour. Oh my goodness. Or he's trying to do this on purpose, and that's a couple of people's theory. So this presser, and again, I think you should watch it. It's very, very interesting, led to this tweet. PM Justin Trudeau of Canada acted so meek and mild during our G7 meetings, only to give a news conference after I left saying that U.S. tariffs were kind of insulting, and he will not be pushed around. Very dishonest and weak. Our tariffs are in response to his of 270% on dairy. Okay, I think that I'll do a different video on the actual trade tariffs and the imbalances because it's a complicated problem. But my issue here, guys, is not necessarily the numbers with regards to the trade deal. Remember, Trump was saying that he wanted to get rid of tariffs. He wanted to get rid of subsidies. He wanted it to be an absolute zero trade deal. No dumping. He didn't want to flood our market with milk. He wants his farmers taken care of, and he clearly cares about Canada. So this is Trudeau. This is Trudeau, and I can't describe it. I can't understand the strategy. It doesn't make any sense. Okay, so this is the last little part that I wanted to put together here. This is question period yesterday, June 13th, 2018. You'd think that once realizing you have made a giant posturing error, you would not compound the issue with another one. But here we go. During question period, the Prime Minister answers the Andrew Scheer, the leader of the opposition, thusly. So I'll show you the whole exchange. It's a little bit long-ish, but I think it's worth watching. The link will be in the description. I think everybody should watch it. Okay, here we go.
Leader of the opposition.
Speaker, when it comes to the state of the current negotiations to preserve NAFTA, there is obviously a great deal of confusion. Yesterday, the Prime Minister had a chance to come clean and be clear about one aspect, though. On Sunday, the CBC reported that the U.S. administration had, quote, waved away and finally dropped their demand for a 5-year sunset clause, something the Prime Minister had said was a major sticking point. Can the Prime Minister clearly state whether or not that report was in fact accurate?
Right Honourable Prime Minister.
Mr. Speaker, I can state without equivocation that the United States has not yet waived its demand for a NAFTA sunset clause.
The Honourable Leader of the Opposition.
Can the Prime Minister confirm or deny that that waiving of the sunset clause was at least offered during his talks with the U.S. President?
The Honourable Prime Minister.
No, Mr. Speaker. With the American President, as is regularly, we engaged on a broad range of subjects, including in which I reiterated that the sunset clause on NAFTA would be absolutely unacceptable, that Canada could never sign a NAFTA with a sunset clause in it, and he did not immediately back down.
The Honourable Leader of the Opposition.
What does immediately back down mean?
Well, Mr. Speaker, we all know that a protracted trade disruption will have a devastating impact on Canada's economy, workers, and their family. But there are a lot of things that a government could do to protect Canada's economy. We knew that the U.S. administration would have a new relationship with Canada as soon as the U.S. election was over. Yet, in last spring's budget, the Prime Minister failed to have a single contingency plan set aside in the budget, and that is with an $18 billion deficit. In addition, they've been dragging their feet on implementing the TPP. The TPP could open up new markets and diversify our trading relationship. Why has the Prime Minister waited so long to implement TPP?
Honourable Prime Minister.
Mr. Speaker, I have to admit, I'm going to return to the previous question because I want everyone to be very, very clear on this. And I don't know exactly where the Conservatives are going with it, but I'm going to give them the benefit of the doubt. The sunset clause has been something that I have said without equivocation from the beginning would be unacceptable in a NAFTA. I have said that many times to the President. The President has not, so far, as far as we know, with what have we seen his tweets, responded to or withdrawn his offer of his demand for a sunset clause in NAFTA. Let's be very clear about that.
Honourable Leader.
Okay, and I'm not going to show you Andrew Scheer's response to that. He just continues questions about the TPP. But my point is, holy crap, man. What are you thinking? Like, I'll tell you what other people think that he's thinking. But Jesus, like, this is the wrong approach. And this is compounding a bad move with the worst possible follow-up. So if there's a giant manufacturing drop in Ontario because Donald Trump has called Ford, Toyota, and Honda and said, hey, you guys want to move into Detroit? It's cheaper electricity, cheaper labor, and I'll subsidize you for fun. Because he can. This is tone deaf This is Trudeau's trade war, and they're going to try and use it to make you rally to his side versus Donald Trump. Trump's not our enemy. Trump wants us to do just fine. He wasn't even gunning for us until Trudeau decided to be Mr. Tough Guy for the cameras. Mr. Trudeau, you got to be a Mr. Tough Guy for Donald Trump. And if you can't stand up to him, to his face, don't pull this garbage on our TV. Jesus. This needs to get fixed, and this is not the right response. Holy cow.